What's up, bookworms? Welcome to episode 133 of the Cantina Book Club podcast, where readers can find interviews with authors from all genres. I'm Megan, self-proclaimed Cantina Queen, here to bring you insights from the authors themselves. Each week features a conversation with a different author. Sometimes it's a returning guest, and sometimes it's someone new. So please be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you never miss out on an episode, and feel free to browse through existing episodes so that you can catch a previous interview about a book that you finished. Today's episode features a chat with Courtney Psak. We're talking about her book, The Tutor, that is available now. Really enjoyable conversation with Courtney. The Tutor is more like a domestic thriller, suspense, a type genre, which I totally appreciate. I love a good thriller. And it was really cool talking to her about just the characters and her character choices and kind of imagining how we would have acted in some of the situations. So some spoilers may or may not pop up in these conversations, but the episode is more enjoyable if you've read the book anyway. So if you don't know why I am showing a lot of concern about the 14-year-old character who's into gossip about true crime, then hit pause, add this episode to your playlist, and go pick up a copy of The Tutor. This interview will be here when you are ready. Just a heads up that I often use adult language to express my feelings towards these authors and their work, whether the characters need to get their shit together or I am saying what the fuck to Courtney for making me feel things. Just please be mindful of listening ears. Books coming out this week: The Museum of Unusual Occurrence, that's by Erica Wright. I have had a chance to reconnect with Erica about this book. She was a previous guest on the show about her book Hollow Bones, and I was really excited to dive in again to her work and have a chat and catch up with her. So keep an eye out for episode and pick up a copy of The Museum of Unusual Occurrence while you're at it. And now, and without further ado, get ready, grab your favorite drink. Here is Courtney Psak. Okay, so today we've got Courtney Psak. We're talking about The Tutor. Courtney, thanks for joining me today. This book was eerie and suspenseful. There's a mystery. You threw me for a loop multiple times. I thought I was onto a certain person, and I was not. You pulled the rug out from under us readers. But yeah, thanks for sitting down. I'm excited to talk about more today.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Awesome. To get started, can you share a summary of the book so that people can follow along with the conversation?
Yeah, of course. So the story is called The Tutor, and it's about this woman, Rose, who's a widow. She's a dedicated mom to her 14-year-old son, James. They're really the only family that the two of them have at the time. She's a struggling artist. Her husband died about a year ago. He was a good father, but a distant husband. His family lived in another country. She was an orphan. And enter in Grant, who is this rich, handsome guy who comes and sweeps her off her feet. And shortly after they get married, his mother, Evelyn, gets diagnosed with Parkinson's. And so he asks his new family if they'd be willing to move to Palm Beach to help take care of her. And Rose, never really having a family before, wants to be a good wife and she wants to be helpful. And so they agree to go down. The thing is, though, is that Grant comes from a very generational, wealthy family. And Evelyn, his mother, is very used to getting her way. And she makes it very clear early on that she doesn't think Rose is good enough for her son, and resorts to bribery. And when that doesn't work, starts digging into Rose's past a bit and using a bit of blackmail to get her to see things her way. But Rose is resilient, and she also soon discovers that she knew Grant's father passed away 20 years ago, but she just found out it's under suspicious circumstances. So she starts to wonder if maybe Evelyn has a couple skeletons in her closet as well. And then enter Isabel, who's about a year or so out of college. Her grandmother, who was her only living relative, passes away, and she winds up discovering this secret that revolves around the Caldwells, so like Evelyn and Grant's family. And she becomes obsessed and literally follows them from New York to Palm Beach, edging her way in as the son's tutor so she can do some investigating of her own. And when these three stories come together, catastrophe occurs and the family's foundation is shaken to its very core.
Yeah, in a nutshell, right? Yeah, there's a bit of moving parts, but it was part of the fun mystery of it. You're teasing us and we're connecting dots and we're also like, wait a second. I had like probably 3 or 4 pages of notes in my little notebook and I was trying to like reacquaint myself, everything. I was almost suspicious of like, because I was like, Evelyn's manipulative as fuck. It's like
Yeah.
you could swear by the way if you want.
Right.
Because once we dig into the family history and how all these dots are connected and how like it's kind of like a slow reveal, but then I was still like, wait a second. That was like a fun experience for the reader because it's part of the mystery. It's part of like the kind of maybe like providing a little bit of comfort for the reader, and then you're like, nope, just kidding. This is what's really going on.
Yeah, and that's what happened with me as well. So this is actually so I had gotten my agent with the book The Aunt that's actually coming out next year and part of a 3-book deal. But while she was submitting that one, I wrote The Tutor and just to be like an excited puppy like, "Okay, yeah, here's my next one."
Yeah.
As it resonated with me, I was like, "You know what? This is really predictable. I'm not sure if I'm really comfortable with it." And I had said to my agent, "I know I sent this to you. I think it was a little premature. I think I'm going to take this one off the table and I'm going to write something else," which actually The Hostess coming out in April. And so she comes back to me and she's like, "So, yeah, I pitched it to editors and they really do like the idea." And I'm like,
Oh,
I'm like, "I'm glad they like the idea, but I'm not confident that this is good enough." And it
yeah.
got this, it's like when you study for a test and you go, "Okay, yeah, I'm going to study for this test." And then the teacher's like, "Yeah, but I'm going to put your answers on the board for everybody to see." And suddenly you're like, "Okay, I'm going to really study for this test now." And it lit a fire under me a bit. And I said, "You know what, just give me a couple weeks. I don't want to wait too long because the editors are obviously going to fill their quota." I was like, "But let me work with this." And so the same thing, like every time I got to that predictable part, I'm like, "Okay, yeah, this was obvious. How do I twist this on its head?" And so I'm very much a plotter, and the whole front of it was plotting. But after that, it was like I pantsed it as I went. Like, I got to turn something here. I got to twist something here. So it was exciting because I actually was able to surprise myself in the ending because normally that's what I know from the very beginning.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't imagine how tricky that could be. Because I always wonder, I guess it depends on the situation of, like, when authors have to have the editors go over it, is it easier to, like, take stuff out or expand on things? But I guess it depends,
Yeah,
right?
it really depends. With that one, my agent is also, she was a former editor, so she's great at being able to look at things, and she was trying to help me with things here and there, and I was like, "I'm sorry, I'm just ripping this whole thing up and redoing it." But other I don't mind expanding. Either way, really, like you said, it depends on the situation. I really haven't had issues with having to take things away. The way I write, because I'm a plotter, is the first draft is very bare bones. It's just making sure that the plot makes sense, each chapter's moving forward in the right direction. And then after, I'll go back and I go, "Okay, I should probably describe what these characters look like. I should probably describe the setting." Majority of my notes from my agent on that first go is like, "Can you tell us what's going, like the setting here, like set the atmosphere?" So that's always my second part. So for the most part, yeah, it's usually for me, it's you need to expand more on that sort of thing.
Mhm. Yeah, because I think it's funny, like, what you did just some like, just some sentiments you describe. It does remind me like, it's common, and it does remind me of a lot of what other authors talk about when I interview them. Because 'cause I'm like even with debut authors, and I'm like, "Don't worry, like, this is normal," for at least from what I hear from everybody I talk to for this type of stuff. This is not your debut, though. How did you approach your I kinda wanna I guess I wanna explore that, if you approached this in a similar way than your other titles, because I think I was, like, looking on your website or I think maybe on Goodreads or something, I forget, when I was kinda, like, trying to prepare for both the interviews I had this week. I noticed that because you got a handful of published works out there. Were there any big lessons learned or stuff that you took from each published title that maybe, like, I don't know, any skills or big lessons learned as you approached this one, if that question makes sense?
Yeah. So basically, what kind of started me, I've always wanted to write. When I was in like my mid 20s, that was when I made the first go of like, "Okay, I'm not going to throw this manuscript out. I'm actually going to try to do something with it." And I was submitting to agents, and that was like I had written 30 Days to 30, and it was a romance fiction comedy sort of thing. And I was very surprised that I had gotten feedback from an agent because if it's a no, it's usually just your standard, like, "We're sorry, this isn't going to happen." And they wrote back like, "This is really good, but at the time romantic comedies were falling out of favor. Like unless you were doing
Oh, okay.
Twilight or 50 Shades, they weren't interested." But it's
Oh,
encouraged me to self-publish, and I was like, this is like 2015. I'm like, I don't know anything about
mm,
self-publishing. It was still even new to begin with. So it took a couple years for me to get my confidence up. And that story is like about a girl who's like tries to accomplish all these things by the time she's 30, and everything she thought she had, the job, the husband, all the stuff, like, all falls apart. She has to move back home like a month before her birthday, and then finds a list that she made of things that are simple, like learn how to cook and do yoga and have the nerve to stand up and do karaoke. And she decides to follow that journey before her 30th birthday. So I was approaching my 30th. My husband's like, so maybe you should practice what you preach.
Yeah.
So I decided to get into it and taught myself everything. And that was a real eye opener for me, because most times you think you write a book and you can just hand it off and be like, okay, thanks, that was great. And there's so much work behind it, just from either the editing, the deciding on the covers, the marketing. And so doing all that was really helpful for me. And also really not that much different from trade publishing. So when I got my 3-book deal with Hodder and Stoughton, I handed my book off and it was like, yep, that's good. And now everything you did with self-publishing, you're still going to do now. You still have to get your name out there. You've got to market yourself. Yeah, it was nice. It was a bit helpful though, because the first time it was like, I had no idea what I was doing, hoping that it was working. So it was nice to have people to bounce ideas off of and go, okay, what works, what doesn't work.
It's crazy how much self-publishing has just, like,
It
skyrocketed,
really
and I think that's so cool that there's still room to grow and to learn because, like, you trusted yourself to an extent, right? Even though your husband had to, like, flick you off the bird's
yeah.
nest, like, "Go fly," like, "Come on." I love that because then by the time yeah, you were already like, you had a certain level of confidence before you started the access to these resources in terms of trad publishing.
Yeah.
So, I think that's so cool. I think that journey is so fun, like, because 'cause
Yes.
you're just like, you just gotta do it.
Yeah,
Just
and you realize how hard it
put it
is.
out.
I took a break after I did that because I went, "Wow, this is a lot of work." And my husband and I were married, we were talking about having kids, and I was like, "You know what? Maybe this." I remember going to a pitch conference when I was 5 months pregnant, and I went, "You know what? Baby's gonna be a lot right now and trying to do all that other stuff." So I have my 2 beautiful boys, but when my youngest went to school for full time, I was like, "And we're back at it."
Yeah,
I've hit the
yeah,
ground
I
running
know.
ever since.
That's I'm waiting for that because mine are the older one's in 3rd grade and the
Oh, my
younger
oldest is 3rd
one
too.
is yeah, okay. Because then the other one, he's got his last year of preschool right now, so he's about to go into
Oh, my
kindergarten, and next
youngest is
year
kindergarten.
oh, that's so fun.
He
So you
went
got the
full-time.
2 boys?
Yep, 2 boys.
Uh, okay, yeah, so that's what I'm waiting for is for the youngest one to hit the kindergarten next year, and then I'm like, "Oh, my there's like a new chapter in my life." Like,
Yes.
it's like a new level because 'cause we're at the mercy of the school year schedule. Every August, September, we gotta figure out like, after once summer is ending, it's like every year it's the same thing, like, "Okay, we gotta make a decision, drop off, pick up."
Oh, yeah.
The older one goes to, like, after school care that the school provides for working adults and stuff like that, which has been a super help. He only goes, like, part-time, but that's been a super help just in terms of just having that extra those extra few hours, absolutely.
Yeah.
That after school even because 'cause I'm working, like, mostly part-time right now, and but even then, I'm like, technically, he doesn't still like, I could be available to, like because I mostly do freelancing, so I'm like, I could be available, but I'm enjoying, like, that the kids are not here yet.
Yeah, no,
So
and it gets tough. I'm the type of writer that when I'm getting really into it, like, I drop them off at school, I have to put an alarm on my phone to because the hours will just go by, and then I'm like, "Oh,
yes.
yeah, I gotta go pick up the kids."
Yes.
It's just when they're home, like, I could give them all the snacks, put on their favorite show, all
Yeah.
these things, and, like, 5 minutes later, my 5-year-old's like, "What you do?"
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I'll have Zoom calls at 5 o'clock in the morning with my agent and publisher that are in the UK, and he'll still find me and come downstairs. I'm like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah. Oh gosh, I know, exactly. That's why I was like, I'm closing the door for the kids today. Because you're absolutely right. The youngest one, he's getting a little bit old, like, he's gonna be, 5 later this month, but yeah, when I was, like, working full-time even from home, it was like I felt like I was just getting bugged, like, every 7 minutes. It
Yeah,
was, like,
and it's
ridiculous.
so tough because they're only young for so long, and you wanna
Yes.
appreciate those moments, so it's trying to find that balance for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, but it's just like I mentioned my dog earlier, like, that's the only other thing where I don't know if I'm, like, the pack leader, she views me as the pack leader, but because she follows me everywhere, part of me absolutely loves it, but she's 11 years old, and she knows the kids are old enough to where, like, the 3rd grader, his one of his chores is to feed her, so she knows that she can bother him to feed like, if it's time, if he hasn't done it yet, and she knows that they can open the back door and let her out, stuff like that. Like she knows that they are capable human beings to help out now, but she's still like, she'll wait for me. And I'm like, there are other human beings here. Like, come on. And she's easier to train than the kids, but still. So your other titles, do they also follow along the same lines of like the psychological thriller, mystery, suspense thriller genre? Are other your other titles in that too? Because I know you had mentioned yours was like a
Yeah, the
rom-com
first one was a
before.
rom-com, but yeah, when I wanted to get back into this, I've always been into mystery thrillers. I love the puzzles. That I felt was a good way to dip my toe into the publishing industry because it was familiar and formulaic, whereas like when you start getting into mysteries, I mean, you're creating these
Yeah.
escape rooms. No, so when I kind of got the confidence, I was like, this is what I love reading. This is what I want to write. And so, yeah, all of them are basically surrounded around like psychological suspense.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because I always like to explore like what draws people, the authors to the genre that if they're sticking with one genre. So that no, but that absolutely makes sense. It's like you're not going to write something that you're not like gung ho about, that you're not because that'll come across in your work if you're not excited about it, and it absolutely comes across when you are excited about it. Because I could tell with some of these characters and like the way you were pulling readers along, and like, I think there were moments where, like, you teased it, and I was like, I'm just, like, writing my notes, and I'm like, "I'm calling it," and then I was like, "Nope, I'm wrong, I'm wrong."
Well, you
So, like, I could just
yeah, you try to write the way you like to read. You wanna
yeah.
make sure you're not boring your reader, because if you're bored, they're gonna be bored. If you're enraged, they're gonna be, and you gotta make sure you do that the right way.
Absolutely, absolutely, I know. Just exploring the relationships between characters and their motivations because I feel like we understand really quickly, like, what Evelyn's motivation is. At least readers, at first, we think we got her figured out, but, like and then there's Isabel. I It's so funny because some of the choices that these characters were making, I was like, that's creepy, but at the same time, I was, "No, I get it, I get it." Isabel's kind of on a mission here, and she's, like, when it does, like, the confrontation does happen, I love the messiness and the drama because that's, like, straight up, like, I would have been there, like, with my popcorn, like, watching this scene unfold where she was like, "Yeah, so here's the reason," like, hands him the paper, and it's just like and at first, it's even then with Grant, it's like there's all these characters where I'm like, I thought I had them figured out, but then I was like, "Oh, no, I'm wrong." And so I wanna explore, like, how you navigated some of those character motivations, like, what kind of inspired some of those motivations and, like, character relationships, and I guess it could also be, like, a storytelling question too of, like, how you decided what to reveal
Yeah, plot
and
versus
yeah.
character. One of the great things about working with dual POVs is the fact that, like, once we think we're gonna get somewhere, leave a cliffhanger and then move on to the next person, but make sure that they also have a cliffhanger, and that's the secret to getting it to be a good page turner. I find it really funny that a lot of not funny, but I'm very plot driven, and a lot of reviewers feel like this is a very character driven story, and
Mm,
it really is. I give so much credit. I always say this to people that can write a series because I just don't have the ability to form a story around a character. It's more of I
yeah.
write the story and then I go, okay, what sort of trauma does this person have to have gone through in their life that they think this is okay? And what sort of
Yeah.
motivation do they have to have that would make them stay and solve it instead of just call the cops?
Absolutely, because even, like, poor James, he's, like, what, 14?
Yeah.
And I think that was, like, one of the things where I was like, "Isabel, why are you spilling all the tea right now?" When she's, like, trying to, because they do feel some sort of connection, and I think it is sweet, but also it's like, that's maybe that where the creepiness comes in because 'cause I'm like,
Yeah.
"Isabel."
But
But it's
she's alone in
she's
this. She
not.
has no like,
Yes.
she has no one to talk to about this.
Yeah, and it's all very, like, confusing to her because she thought she knew.
Yeah, and she's
And
also trying
then
to hear like, "Okay, what have you heard on your end that I
yeah.
she's using a bit as well to figure it out."
And that's so funny, I know, because it's, like, protect James from all of it, but, like, I could also imagine him, like, indulging in a little gossip too.
Oh, of
He's
course,
like,
he's
"Wait, what?"
14, but,
Yeah.
a teenager that's like, "Wait, real true crime is happening right in this
Yeah.
house? Like, sign me on." That whole gung ho,
Absolutely.
even his character just, like, running into the building and, like, her yelling at him, like, "What are you like, we just heard a gunshot, you don't
Yeah.
run into a building."
Yeah.
But a 14-year-old boy? Yeah, they would.
Absolutely, and poor Rose is like, "No," like,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Like, I clutched my pearls with her. I was like, absolutely, like, "What are you going? What are you doing?" As a boy and mom, you absolutely
Oh my
know too.
gosh.
Like, poor Rose. And even then, I feel like maybe she's one of the few. I don't know. I can't remember if I thought she was completely innocent, but she was because she was just trying to be a mom, and she has a heartbreaking background,
Mhm.
backstory, and James's dad was, like, not faithful, he was not good to her, and so she's just like, "Oh, here's this man who, like, is in love with me and wants me to himself," and then it's felt for her, but at the same time, I was like, "Rose, open your eyes," but then I was like, "Never mind, I'm wrong. I'm wrong because I thought a certain thing." So this was like what reminds me of, like, really funny to go on the journey with the characters. I felt like as a reader, personally, for me and myself in my brain, I felt like I was like I would say to myself, like, "Shit, Isabel, and shit, Rose, I'm confused too. Like, wait a second." Rounding back to the question I asked because I guess I kinda wanna piggyback off of that topic and explore. I wanna ask about the research, like, 'cause there's obviously some things that you know how to do because this is not your first published title, but, like, I like to ask authors about the research because there's, like, not just even with the sensitive themes, but, like, anything else that you were fascinated or surprised to learn, stuff like that?
Yeah, it's always pretty fascinating. I have a friend she was an ER nurse, so she is just on my speed dial all the time. Like half the time I'm like, how do we kill someone this way? How do we kill someone this way?
Mm,
They fall and do like so she's good at always like helping me with that stuff. And it'll be funny. I'll like hear something in the background. I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, oh, I'm at my kid's baseball game. I'm like, you're having this conversation with me, with like surrounded by all these children and parents. That's one of the reasons I love her. She's great. So she's
that's so
probably my
funny.
main research person. And then when she was working at the ER, like I would just be like, all right, what does it take to get into the psych ward and what sort of people? And so she would like connect me with just people that she worked with. And it was super
Okay.
helpful to just have people to bounce ideas off of with that sort of thing.
Yeah, I imagine it's better than, like, your Google search history becoming problematic
Yeah,
or
I'm getting a little
suspicious.
nervous with that. I actually was doing some research a couple weeks ago and AI came up and was like, it looks like you're trying to harm someone and we're not supporting this." I was like, and the FBI is coming to my door.
Oh, no, I was gonna say, like, don't you know, do incognito mode, like,
I was like, "Yeah,
or
it
I
should
don't know.
probably do private windows." So
That's what I like to tease authors, especially of, like, suspense or crime fiction and stuff like that, who it's like your Google search history is very questionable, and they're like, yeah, because not everyone has a resources of a person that they could speak to that doesn't have a paper trail, like,
exactly.
or unless they are in a problematic location, like, "What are you doing?" Like,
Yeah. No, it's one of those things, and actually, like, my advice to writers is that it never occurred to me to, like, be part of like, you'll look at my bio, and I'm all part of all these organizations, like the Mystery Writers of America and Women's Fiction
uh-huh.
Association and everything. I didn't realize, like, all the resources that they have there. So, like, you have questions about forensics or police investigations or medical examinations, like, they have people you can talk to and Zoom call with and things. So those
Oh,
things
that's
are
awesome.
really helpful.
Yeah, and that makes so much sense. It's one of those things where I was like, "Oh, why wouldn't those communities have those resources available. Of course, like those organizations that are for specific groups of people. I'm like, oh, like yeah, of course that would be a thing. That's really cool, and I imagine it's like super helpful because I remember talking to one author. God, what was her name? It's Yasmin Ango, and she writes like suspenseful thriller story and it was when I was talking to her about her research experiences, she went to Citizens Academy for, like, law enforcement, and she also went on a couple ride-alongs,
Oh,
and
fun.
I just yeah, and I was like I remember, like, just hearing her talk about it, but yeah, that's what that reminds me of when you can have these certain experiences or have these people, these certain contacts that even if it is, like, a straight up an official, like, workshop situation, just so that you could become more familiar, just 'cause I also love asking authors about research because a lot of the times they're like, "I was sucked into a rabbit hole of 4 hours when it was, like, 2 sentences in the book." I love that. I think that's so funny.
So we were talking earlier about expanding. So when I first started writing, so the book that comes out next year, that was the one that my agent first got picked me up with. And her feedback to me was like, there was an FBI agent in there, and she's like, I want you to give this person a backstory. And I knew she was right, but I was terrified because I was like, I don't know anything about the FBI, and I don't want to take liberties and then get like
Sure.
crucified. And oddly enough, I hadn't even realized it. My husband was like, the security guard that works at our son's school was former FBI. And she was also teaching our son how to swim. So she was like around all the time. So I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that. So it worked out because the story takes place in Palm Beach and she was FBI in the area. So even just from jurisdiction of what's Miami, what's there, she was amazing with. But I remember I was doing these edits and the school was just starting up. There was like one more week left of school camp. And I said, "Hey, I have a couple questions that I just want to verify with you for my story." And she was like, "Of course." She's working security guard for this camp, and like, we're waiting for the kids to go away, and the doors would close, and then she'd be telling me about like this woman that was stuck in a refrigerator, and then another kid would come out, we're like, "Hi, kid," and then, like,
Yeah.
they'd leave, and I'm like, "Did it smell?" Like,
Yeah.
we probably shouldn't be having these conversations right now, but
That is so funny. That's hilarious. I love that because it's almost like, oh, if you're on your audiobook or a podcast, like you're listening either like to a murder documentary or a crime podcast series or whatever, like that's what that reminds me of. It's like you listen to the most horrific shit while just like washing dishes and like stone face. Or you're like exercising and listening to a smutty book or something
yeah.
like that, where you're just like you're keeping a straight face in public. That's hilarious because she's just like, "Oh shit, we got little listening ears. We cannot have them eavesdrop," because that's the last thing that she needs is like, "Oh, I heard,
Oh,
so and
exactly,
so
yeah. No, I was
on
with
the
her on that.
job."
It was just every time, luckily, there were gym doors, so, like, you knew when they were opening up, nobody was accidentally
Yeah, oh,
having
those
a
are loud, yeah.
conversation.
Those are loud for sure. So, I'm looking at my notes and then, like, my questions, and I'm just laughing at myself of saying, "Oh shit, what if?" And then I was wrong. 'Cause there's, like that's, like, multiple it's really funny, like, I like tracking my notes because I could see, like, how they become more unhinged after a certain point. And this story, it definitely, like, did that because I'm like, "Oh shit, oh fuck," and then I was like and then I looked down at my notes towards the bottom, and I was like I could tell each time I was debunked because I could tell, like, certain I was like, "Holy shit, oh fuck, holy shit," and then I was like, "Oh wait, never mind," and then another, holy shit." So it's just like that's the type of book where I knew like you just took readers for a loop. And then when you say that you had to like go back and been like, thank you, I appreciate this, but I really need to polish it up. There's something else that I really need to do to really give it that extra, just to take it a step further. Because if it's even though there's the writer of the story, you could tell it's obvious, but at the same time, you're like, you know what, that you love to read it for these reasons A, B, and C. And if you're not feeling that yet, then you knew yourself and you trusted yourself that you're like, "No, I gotta, like, hold that thought, hold my beer, I gotta go make this
Yeah,
better."
no,
Like
I'm reading it going, "I see this coming a mile away, so is everyone else, and you wanna know something? They're gonna put it down because I would, so how do I
Yeah,
throw people off here?"
absolutely, absolutely. So, this is a two-parter. What were the most challenging parts to write? What were the most enjoyable parts to write?
So, again, the most challenging part to write was really trying to make sure that when I did these twists that they were believable and made sense, because the last thing you want to do is enrage your readers. And so when I got to the end, I was really, it was a bit anticlimactic, and I was like, all right, I need to really, it took extra long on the ending because I was like, I need to figure everything out. So I deep dived into each character, and I'm like, okay, how can I really make this a really twisty but also satisfying ending that everyone would be happy with? And then that's when I came across what I did, and so I was excited about that. But it was hard to get there. I wanted to really make sure, like I said, like my
Hold
answers were on
on
the
for a
board, and I
second.
wanted to make sure that
I'm gonna figure
everyone
that
would be
okay.
satisfied with it. The hardest part was just, again, making sure all of that aligned properly. And the most fun was writing Evelyn because she just doesn't care. And like everything you want to say but can't, like she says it. Like even with her friends, they're all passive aggressive to each other and like don't care. So I thought,
That oh, that was yeah, that's it's so funny, like, you're almost living vicariously through her, because 'cause I'm sure, like, we all have been there where we're with a person or even just a situation where you're clearly dissatisfied, but maybe you're just, like, trying to be, like, not not unkind. You're trying not to be, or I don't know, maybe it's like a thing with women too. Maybe it's just more surprising because she's like not just for her age, but like cuz she's a woman and they're all women, but we all know, women especially, we know that women can be petty, and especially if, because they care about appearances and they care about social standing,
Mhm.
and they're used to being having certain standards, and they're used to just like almost being untouchable, where they know like they can be rude or blunt and they're still going to be in the position that they are, like it's not going to hurt them or harm them.
Yeah.
Their personalities, they don't have to be mindful about how they're perceived or how they're behaving in order to maintain their life. And so I imagine, yes, like that would have been fun for you to write, like for Evelyn, because she was just straight up like unapologetic. And while we see at first, we're like, oh god, she's fucking manipulative, and like she is just, but I still wasn't on to her. I still wasn't on to her, at least, like, because it's fun. It's almost like a bait and switch, right? Like
Yeah.
at the end we learn like she's exactly as not as how as she appears. And I remember like as it was slowly being revealed, I was trying to connect the dots, like again, connecting dots that I thought I was like, wait a second. But it's really like she was trying to be like unbearable, like on
Yeah.
purpose, and she had a reason not just to keep her son to her all to herself, but like to keep Rose safe. I thought it was like so crazy, and then I was like, wait a second, because I didn't see it coming. I was like, damn it, Courtney got me again. Like it
You know what's funny?
was
That first draft I did, it was actually going to be a father-in-law. And,
okay.
it was more of supposed to be like this intimidating factor. One, and then that's when I realized like women are so much better at like the undercurrent of tension and the passive aggressiveness. And like it's easier to get into the minds of them. And just you're able to say things differently and things can come off differently. Whereas I was realizing with the father in law, some of it could come off as creepy and it wasn't the vibe I was going for. Yeah. So when Evelyn popped in, I was like, oh, yes, this is that character.
'Cause it was, I don't know, I'm an advocate for, like, female rage and toxicity, even if you're being toxic and problematic, I'm still like, "You go, girl." 'Cause it not only, like, makes the story better, but I feel like just my attitude, I'm just like, I'm gonna support women even if they're being a hot mess, and I was just like, "Yeah, fuck the patriarchy, like, you go, girl." In real life, maybe not so much, but
Yeah.
definitely in my stories where I'm like, "Yes."
One of the things I'm trying to also highlight with these dynamics is the fact that it doesn't matter where you come from, what your background is, what your social status is. Nobody can escape trauma. Nobody can escape the just basic human emotions of jealousy and insecurity, all those things. And we're all human when it comes down to it. And like we
Yeah.
learn with Evelyn, like she has her reasons, and whether you agree with how she handled it, you have to respect it and understand like what she's been through that makes her the way she is. And the same with Rose and
Uh-huh.
what she's been through and what makes her the way.
Yeah. 100%. It is. It's like, cause yeah, it was because as a daughter-in-law, she's like, "Oh, fine, I'll just grin and bear it." Like, okay. Like but, and then at the same time, because she, like you said, like she didn't really know, she doesn't have a great example of what,
She never had a
uh,
mother-in-law
yeah,
before. Even
yeah.
her ex-husband, like, or her widowed husband, his family was in another country. Like, she got pregnant and they were like, see ya, and they went away. So she never had any sort of support. And one of the good dynamics is that Evelyn's like sweet as pie with with Grant. And then, she says things to Rose, and Rose just goes like, do you know your mom just said this to me? And Grant obviously also has like the rose colored glasses because it's his mom. And it's not like he's gaslighting her like, oh, you're crazy. He's like, I get that, but I'm sure she didn't mean it this way. I'm sure you're interpreting this a different way. Like always these ways where she almost had to think to herself, maybe I'm crazy, maybe I am being oversensitive, maybe I am reading into it much. And then when she realizes like the gloves are off, she's like, all right, forget Grant, I got this. Like,
Yeah, she's like, I'm gonna approach this a different. She's like, I'm gonna try this, and yeah, I feel for her. I'm lucky that I don't have the monster in laws. What
yeah, me too.
that phrase goes. Even though there is, yeah, it's just like it's more so dealing with like, um the husband and their family is, and this goes for like almost anybody that, who's basically marrying into a family that is very different than what you grew up with.
Yeah.
So it's just really, it is an adjustment period, and it's really, and obviously all mother-in-laws, they're all different, but yeah, for the most part, it's if it's not, I guess for most, like, for me personally, it was just, like, really, and sometimes I still do struggle with it, especially because we've got their grandkids, and so it is just, like, an adjustment period of, "Oh, this is," it's like explaining it. It's like, "Oh, this is why it doesn't come from a place of, like, malice, or, like, they're not trying to be hurtful." It's just they truly are just used to doing things a certain way. They have a certain dynamic, and it's just really, like, getting used to that and trying to understand that, and just trying to, like, if at the worst, the very least, try to at least understand it, like, at the very least, because it's like, even if I can't meet them halfway, or even if I'm like, I'm not cool with a certain thing or how something is handled, or if it's not, I don't wanna compromise per se, I can at least, I'm already at the point where I'm like, "Yeah, no, I get it." Like, it's a very human experience. It's part of getting married, it's part of becoming part of a family, even if it's like a dotted line or your own little umbrella on the family tree. It's like, this is what it all connects to, and it's a learning experience for everybody, for sure. So it's, yeah, but seeing Rose, it was like Evelyn just not giving any fucks, and Rose being like, "Okay." She just, like, 'cause she doesn't wanna ruffle any feathers either. She's gotta be grateful, right? But then she's also like,
Yeah, no, it's a tough balance. She's trying to be a good mom, she's trying to be a good wife, she's also trying to find herself. She's still trying to be an artist and she's struggling with that. You're trying to maintain all these balances and you're just dealing with, every turn she feels guilty about something. She's guilty about taking her son away from all of his friends, but she's also grateful that he's now going to go to one of the best schools in the country, and like that's why she needs to hire a tutor because she wants him to strive to do well there. And she's got her husband that's like kind of demanding some of her time, and she's trying to be a supportive wife, and she's like, I've been alone my whole life and I'm not used to someone actually really wanting me, so like, is he being possessive or am I just being too distant and too cold? And she's just trying to, like you said, navigate this new world for herself.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, 100%. I'm gonna try something a little different. What So, if Rose were to go to a desert island, what 3 items would she take with her?
Do art supplies count as one? One canvas,
I
paintbrush,
think so.
and brushes.
I think so,
Yeah,
yes.
so her son, art supplies, and yeah, what would be the third? You would think that it depends. Is it the beginning of the book or the end of the book?
I know, because I do like asking authors, "What advice would you give to your character?" So that's the same exact question that they ask, like, wait,
A therapist.
beginning, middle, or end? Yeah.
The third one needs to be a therapist then. Before and after.
Oh, that's so funny. I know, I'm an advocate for therapy too, like, whatever you need, like, that's hilarious, it's so funny. So what do you think James would bring then to a desert island?
His soccer ball. He's a
Mm,
avid soccer player. Yeah, his mom, because he's in that tough stage where he wants his independence, everything he's been through, losing his father. I think he really appreciates his mom. And for his third thing, I'm trying to think, probably his laptop for researching crime, past crimes. He gets into that, sucks into that true crime hype.
yeah. That's so funny because it's like when you mentioned before, it's like, "Oh, he's a 14-year-old boy, of course he's gonna be like, ooh," like, wanting to know, all the details, the juicy details, because it reminds me of my own kid, like, the 3rd grader. I'm like, he always asks, like, just anything, like, "Oh, who said that?" We're like, "Well, stop being so nosy." Like, what? Like,
Yep. Suddenly their ears are really picking
I
up.
really, it's hilarious. I don't know if it's just a personality thing, or, yeah, like, an age appropriate. It is age appropriate, but it's like, I have to tell him, like, "Stop, like, it's not your business." Like, what? Because it's like, "I wasn't talking to you," and it's just so funny because it just reminds me of a time where I think, he overheard me and my best friend talking about years ago. She was my maid of honor, and it was like the bachelorette party. We did it on the same night. It was funny to see, like, people keeping tabs, each group keeping tabs with each other.
Mhm.
And her ex, She had just started dating her now husband, and her ex was one of my husband's one of his best friends. So both of them were at the bachelor party, and I think my son overheard us, like, talking. I forget why we were even on the subject, but then when my son asked, he was like, "Wait, who? Like, Uncle Dan?" Like like, no, like, before they got married with this, because I'm, like, telling my son, like, "You're so nosy." But then I'm like, "No, okay, this is funny to tell him." Like, even if it's like, okay, like, it's none of his business, but, like, explaining, like, "Oh, there's a party and blah, blah, blah." It's
The
really
worst too is,
funny
like,
because
when they misinterpret it and then they repeat it, and
oh,
you're like,
yeah.
"That's where those real drama things start."
Yeah, but it was also in front of her, and she's like, "Megan, why are you telling him all this?" I'm like, "I don't know. I just think it's." I was like, a part of it thought it was funny because, like, I think my your kids, they get to an age where they're slowly growing into, like, people and into their own personalities, and so I think a lot of it was, like, part of it was me curious about how he would, like, respond to that type of, like, drama, like, gossip, and it was just really funny because 'cause I'm like, "Okay, now you probably know more than you need to know," and he's like, "Yeah, I know everything." Like, I think that's why I like James in particular because I'm like, "Oh, like, he's a little nosy too," and he's, like, curious and gossipy, and also because Isabel is, like, letting him in,
Mhm,
she's cluing him in on everything, and yeah, like you said, like, she's also trying to say, like, "Is there anything that you noticed, blah, 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 and about your stepdad and whatever, or about your grandma, your step grandma," and so it was just really, like, it made me think about, like, "Oh my god, that'd be so funny." Like a 14-year-old ready for the to spill the tea or the gossip and try and but no, like, you're absolutely right. He was like, "Wait, this is like real life." He just wants to either go to school or he's dealing with being a casualty of his mother's relationships and the move and all that. Like, he's unfortunately gotta deal with those choices and situations that are not within his control but directly affect him.
mhm.
And so, yeah, he's got, like, and his frontal cortex isn't even developed yet. So, it's like a whole slew of things where I don't know, it was like I liked James a lot just for his, like, little innocence, but also, "What?" Like,
Yeah, there's, like,
like,
that
that
one scene where
curiosity.
he's in the car telling her, like, "Isabel and I talked about this," and she, like, pulls the car over
Yeah.
and she's like, "This is real life for us, like, we we might be in the middle of some real bad things, and
Yeah.
let's not get in it, like, let's stay out of it and not put ourselves in danger, okay?"
Yeah. Yeah. It's like it's fun for me to read, but as a mom, you realize Rose is like, "Oh, shit. Whoa, wait a second here, buddy. I did not give you that information." Like, because if I was her, I would have probably been, like, really upset with Isabel, but it's for the storytelling sake and for the character's sake. I feel like I still understand
Yeah.
where Isabel was going with it.
Yeah, and
I
she
was just
was
a little
mad at Isabel.
surprised.
She was like, "You can't tutor him anymore, like, this is not okay." Like,
Yeah, and by that, because yeah, by that point, it was like the damage was it was like, there's no how are you gonna tell him not to worry about it anymore? Like, "Oh, just forget we had this conversation." He wants to know what
yeah, it's
he's gonna wanna know
Pandora's
how
box has been
yeah,
opened.
exactly, 100%. Okay, so just a couple more questions before we wrap. Let's see. This is so with all the serious subject matters and just with the sensitive themes and stuff like that, what do you do to take care of yourself? Like, self-care, getting yourself in the zone, pulling yourself out of the zone, writing some of these potentially, like, troubling content, stuff like that. What do you do to take care of yourself?
Yeah, I try to if I can, I try to avoid having to do sometimes it just calls for it with the character, like, again, what sort of trauma do they have as a child that puts them in this position? But I'm the type of person, like, even true crime like, people fun fact about me is that I love crime fiction, but I hate true crime. When it
Mm,
is actually real, it's really hard for me to swallow, like, because I just can't get out of my head, like, this is a real person that really had
yeah.
friends and family and children and everybody that had to suffer through this. Whereas with my fiction characters, I put them through the ringer. I'm able to pull that distinction. But if I do have to get into the dark past that Rose has, I really try to just keep it as light as possible in terms of like details. Like we just need to understand it and then move on. Like we try not to really dwell in that. And because even I have a hard, like even editing, it, I'm like, oh, I hate this part. Like it needs to be in there. It's really important, but at the same time, yeah, like I'm still not a fan of it. So yeah, I'll have to
Yeah.
take a break. And there's a lot of times like, writing about Rose and again, that whole like mom guilt. And you're sitting there like writing these instances of this adult who's reflecting back on her mother and how she treated her and like, oh, she never let me stay up late and all this other stuff. And I'm like, oh, this woman's terrible. And then it's 10 o'clock and I hear my kids upstairs like, go to bed. And like,
Yeah.
that's what's happening. And then I'm like, am I her? Like, am I writing myself? And is this me? Should I be looking in a mirror right now? Like,
No, I feel like there's like a level, an unspoken understanding. It's like the sisterhood of motherhood, where it's just like, you know what? Yeah, tonight, like, I don't know. It's like, okay, fine. If you only want cheese and crackers for dinner, I don't care. This is a battle I am not
yeah,
fighting. Like,
exactly.
just no, I have no interest in this is not that serious. Like it's when it becomes a pattern then maybe it's a problem. But
Yeah.
like or yeah, like just yelling at them to go to bed. It's funny because they yeah, they do share the same bedroom and we could hear them. We could hear them very clearly. And we also have like cameras and stuff. And so if like I don't feel like getting up, I'm like we could talk through the camera through the microphone. And then it's funny to like when they remember it, when they realize it, they're like, oh shit. Like like you can see the body language. But no, it's okay. I feel like there are worse things to do to your children. I will s I'll just leave it at that. It's okay. But what do you hope readers get out of the tutor?
So what I said earlier, how it doesn't matter what sort of background you come from, like you can't escape basic human emotions. And I loved writing about these three very distinctly different characters that really, in the end, were not that different from one another.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So what Courtney Psak, what are you touched on this. What are you working on anything that you could talk about, like your upcoming release? Is there anything that you could share about that without getting into trouble?
Yeah, no. So I got this 3-book deal with Hodder and Stoughton in the UK, and they're doing a very digital first approach. So the tutor actually came out in August for all three audio, digital, and paperback. And like I said, so it's a 3-month delay with the US as far as the tutor paperback. So that'll come out on the 11th. But my next book is called The Hostess. That comes out January 15th in the UK, audio and digital. And then April 21st, the paperback will come out. So that story is about this couple, Natalie and Luke, who, feel like they've lucked out when they find this house to rent on this gorgeous Southampton estate. And it couldn't come at a better time because Natalie is recovering from she's suffering a brain injury after a traumatic car accident she had about 6 months earlier. And it's rendered her agoraphobic because they live in the city and you can't walk out of your apartment without seeing cars everywhere. So her husband Luke hopes that like having all this open space and the beach will like help her recover. So they show up there worried, like, is this really going to look like the pictures and everything else? And it winds up even being better. But they no sooner walk into the guest house and there's this big, like 6'5", intimidating guy who essentially tells them, like, very standoffish, tells them to get out. And luckily, the owner of the estate, Sadie, comes in and she's very charismatic and beautiful. And she explains that Riley's the groundskeeper. He suffers PTSD and he's not very good with social interactions, but I swear he's harmless. And so Luke and her kind of come to the conclusion when they go through the house, like it looked like the shower had been used and like the refrigerator had snacks in it. Like he was probably using this as his like personal, like little office while he was there. So he's a little annoyed about that. So they don't think much of it. And Sadie and Natalie really start to hit it off. Natalie is a ER nurse and she's eager to get back to work. And Sadie was a former psychiatrist. And so they're sharing war stories and talking about like what's harder to heal, the body or the mind. And so Luke feels at ease because he just got a brand new job that's going to put them in a different tax bracket and he really has to like concentrate with work. So he's got to be in the office 5 days a week. So he's happy to see this friendship with Sadie because she won't be alone and she can look out for her. Natalie's in this house by herself, and all of a sudden these weird things start happening. And she's a very pragmatic person. So she's thinking, okay, I know I'm on medication that can cause hallucinations and I'm in a new environment. Like, so she writes it off as maybe it's just something like that. But then like weird things with the groundskeeper happen. She catches him like looking in the windows. And so she's like, okay, is he breaking in when I'm here? And more creepy things start to happen. And they start to become more sinister to the point that she wonders, like, okay, what's Sadie's real intention for renting this house out that she's never rented out before for a month in the middle of July?
Mm.
Is there an ulterior motive here? And so she starts to get very unsettled and feels maybe something terrible happened here. And she needs to figure out what that was before something terrible might happen to her.
Ooh, I'm like, I'm getting a little creeped out just hearing you describe it. That's exciting, that's fun, and I'm sure, like, now you got the hang of how the publisher operates a little bit, so you can
Yeah.
kind of prepare yourself mentally for that digital first approach for sure.
Mhm.
That's really cool. Where can we find you online and on social media?
So I do have a website, CourtneyPsak.com, and Courtney Psak underscore author for Instagram. I have a couple other social media outlets, but I'm still learning them a bit. So Instagram is the best way to reach me.
Perfect. So yeah, Courtney Psak, The Tutor, that is available in paperback on the 11th, but if you want to have it for your e-reader, it's out now in that version. Courtney, thank you so much for joining me today for you listened to me like rant on about your storytelling choices and how you threw me for a loop and fooled me and all that jazz. And if and when you are ready to talk about any future titles, feel free to keep in touch. I'd love to chat
Oh, I
again.
would love that. Thank you so much. I really appreciate being on here.
And there you go. That was Courtney Psak talking about her book, The Tutor. That book is available now. Check out the show notes to see links where you can find Courtney online and on social media and where to purchase the book. In the show notes, you'll also see where to find Cantina Book Club on your favorite social media book communities, such as Bookstagram, Book Talk, BookTube, Threads, Facebook, and more. And I would love and appreciate if you could hit that follow and subscribe button so that you never miss out on book reviews and author interviews. If you have any book loving friends who are looking forward to want to get more out of their reading lists, please share Cantina Book Club with them so that they can find upcoming releases and interviews with authors. Another way to help this podcast is to head over to your favorite podcast player and give Cantina Book Club a rating and review. It helps me reach more potential listeners and fellow book lovers like you, and that goes for any podcast that you listen to. It's one of the easiest things that you could do to help. If you need book recommendations, you can reach out to me. I'm always excited to share my recent favorites, or you can head over to cantinabookclub.com to read more in-depth book reviews of all types of genres. While you're at it, you can subscribe by entering your email on the website so you can get new reviews and episode posts delivered directly to your inbox. If you want to support Cantina Book Club even more, you can donate by finding the form on cantinabookclub.com. Whether it's a one-time donation or as little as $1 a month, I seriously appreciate the support and will share my appreciation by giving you a shout out on the show. And finally, one of the best ways to help authors promote their works is to head on over to Amazon, Goodreads, Substack, BookBub, Storygraph, wherever you rate your books and give a title that you've read a rating and review. It's free and it helps out almost as much as actually purchasing the book and or tagging on social media. As always, thanks so much and see you next time. Cheers.